so I got out this map, or maybe I looked at a map at one of the ski area walls or whatever, and tried to figure out like how do we actually get there? And the way to do it was if you skied way down onto the Zermatt side, down onto the Swiss side, you'd eventually reach this tram that goes up the Klein Matterhorn, which is like the little Matterhorn. And it's the highest lift service place in Europe, I think. And from there, you were above the KL, and you could actually like go down a traverse, duck under a rope, and get to the top of it. But we had only been there like once before. I think as a group, we had taken that trim one time. And it wasn't something that I could ask the instructors to do. Like they were already kind of unhappy that we were traversing out to the halfway down the KL. And they were not going to be happy to take a full group down from the top. Some of the people probably wouldn't be able to handle it. And it was definitely kind of pushing the risk of what that camp was willing to do too much. So the only way we could really do it was on our own. And the only time we could really do it was to go through daily training, wait for it to end, then race down to the Zermatt side, get on that tram before it closes, then go up top and find the right place to duck under the ropes and hit this slope.
You really mapped it out.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're really trying to figure out, it's like, this is our plan. We're going to do this. But if anybody listening knows anything about glaciers or summer skiing, you kind of see the immediate problem, which is that it's summer, you're at 12,000 feet, the sun's insanely strong, and the snow gets really, really soft by late morning. So the crevasses open up and the snow bridges sag. And I don't know if it ever would have been super safe to do this, but it was definitely not safe when we were planning to go. And on top of that, we did, anything you could do wrong, we did. We didn't bring any safety equipment. We didn't have extra clothes. We didn't have food. We didn't have water. Certainly didn't have like ropes or beacons or shovels. But much more beyond that, because most of that equipment was not available to us, we went really on our own. I mean, I didn't have a map. I had like this vague sense of where we needed to go. I'd never looked at it from above. There's very few features when you're up on a glacier to even get your bearings on. We had no way to communicate. It was way before cell phones, but we didn't have radios. We didn't even tell anybody because we were essentially sneaking out to do all this. We were very, very much on our own. So on the day we were doing it, we kind of did our training for the day, waited for it to end, gathered up, and then sped down towards Zermatt and got on this Klein Matterhorn tram. And when we got there, it was so late in the day that we're going up the tram and it stopped just for some mechanical problem. And the operator decided to get a head start on like shutting it down for the day. He has to like close up various vents and things like that. And I'm the smallest guy on this. So he comes up to me and he like kind of points at the roof, and I don't really know what he's talking about. And then he lifts me. There's an open skylight, and this tram is insanely high. It's got like, it's typical tram where it's got like two towers on the whole thing. He lifts me out of the top of the tram. So I'm like, waist or even like thighs above the roof of the tram, so I could reach out and like grab the skylights and pull them closed so he didn't have to do it at the top of the day, dangling like thousands of feet in the air.
Oh my gosh. As a 14-year-old boy, you're probably psyched.
So we finally get up there, and the tram comes in one side of a mountain. You go through a tunnel and you come out the other side. So we pop out this other side, and it's got, spectacular views. You can see the Matterhorn and that kind of stuff. But again, there's not a lot to know where you are. It's just a big sea of white. So there's a trail that goes down from there, which leads back to the T-bars that we normally train on. And we know that we need to go down that trail for a bit, and then at some point we're going to branch off to the right, duck under the rope, and hit the top of this KL slope. But I don't really know where it is. So we go a few hundred feet, and I'm like, yeah, I think this is it. We duck under and start to go down. The problem was that actual entrance, like where we should have ducked under, was far. It was about a kilometer south of there. So we were pretty far off where we need to be. And we ski down this nice open slope. And I remember thinking, like, this is really good skiing. It was like untouched. It was perfect corn. And now looking back, I realized, well, it was perfect corn because nobody had skied on that in months, maybe all year. I don't know. But we get to lower down on this slope, and we expect it to roll off to this 30 or 35 degree slope for the speed skiing. And we get down there, and it doesn't. And nothing's familiar. And we're on the we look forward, and we're on a cliff, a massive cliff. It's like 600 feet high. It's half a mile wide, and we're like dead center. And we're all kind of freaked out because we know we're lost. But we were thinking, well, the good news is we didn't actually ski that far down, and it wasn't like it was particularly steep. All we got to do, it's going to suck. We're going to have to hike a while, but we just got to turn around and hike back up. And so we turned around to do that and look up. And the slope we had just come down, which was a really nice ski, was really, really scary looking from below. It was
like steep.
No, it was not steep. It was just littered with crevasses. And you could see them. You could see all the sagging snow bridges. You could see these like dark shadows where they were. And they were massive crevasses. And you could see our tracks. We went right over like 3 of them. I mean, we were just lucky they didn't break on the way down. We're looking up, and there's zero chance we can hike up that thing, because even if they had held us on the way down, they're not going to hold us sidestepping over them on the way back up.
Right.
And we all get really scared. There's 4 of us.
Yeah.
We can see the T-bars way below, but we're really far. You can't signal from there. We're just specks. And we don't know how we're going to deal with this. But nobody's really in a position to rescue us. We haven't told anybody, and nobody can see us. So we're trying to figure out a way to get around this cliff and continue down. And the 2 options were either to basically go north along the cliff or to go south along the cliff and try to curve around the edges of it. And going north was really unfamiliar terrain. It was this slope right below the Klein Matterhorn that we had never skied. We'd never seen anybody ski it. I'm not sure there were ever tracks on it. But we could see most of it. You could kind of see where it went. And although it was really steep, it looked doable. It looked like a actually skiable trail. But even kind of more important than that was that the traverse over to it looked really good. It just looked like normal snow. Nothing was sagging. It was slightly downhill. It looked like a pretty easy push to get that way.
A promising option.
Yeah, so I was really pushing for us to go that way. David, who was kind of the other main party, really wanted to go the other way, which was south. It would eventually lead to that KL slope. It led to stuff we'd skied before, and it had the added benefit that groomer that we'd started on was descending in that direction. So if we go far enough out that way, maybe we can hike back up to it. It might be that the distance between the groomer and where we stand as we traverse that way just isn't that far. There's no crevasses between them, and we can just get out of there without doing anything scary. The problem I saw with that was that the snow looked really bad. It just looked ripply and contoured, and I just felt like those. We don't know what of those are crevasses, and they might be crevasses that way, and that looks really scary. So we argued for a bit, and then all of a sudden, 3 of us were heading north the way I wanted to go, and David was going the other way. We didn't really.
Oh, the group split up.
We split up.
Yikes.
Yeah, we didn't really like.
Dun dun dun.
I don't really remember like talking about it. Like we weren't like, well, I'm going this way and I'm going that way. It was just like we were both kind of insistent, and we were both used to leading a little bit. And I think we didn't really come to an agreement. So my group is traversing around. We're staying right by the edge of the cliff as we get across the snow. And eventually we reach to where it starts sloping downhill. And we get there, and there's a really big crevasse, like right where it rolls over, which is, I guess, kind of what you'd expect, or what I'd expect now, but I didn't really know that at the time. And we're looking at this crevasse, and we don't really see a way around it. And at that point, we turn around, let's see how David's doing. And we couldn't see him, which seemed really good. Like maybe he'd probably already gotten around the edge of that cliff, or maybe he'd gotten back up to that traverse, and he was on his way down. We were talking, maybe he'd send somebody up to rescue us. And even if he wasn't, it seemed like, well, he had made it, it should be a pretty safe way. So we turned around. We were going back, and it was definitely harder. We were it was still mostly a traverse, but it was now a solid uphill traverse, like you're sidestepping every step. And we're having to get around little variations in the cliff, and the snow's really wet and heavy by this point. And I remember one of the other kids in our group is like, he really wanted to take off his skis because it was just hard to walk with them. And I was maybe the only good decision of the day. I said, we should keep them on. I was like, if we're near a crevasse, like with the skis, we're at least spread out. We have a little bit of chance of it not collapsing. If we're walking, I think we'll go through. So we decided to keep him on, and it made for really sluggish walk, but we kind of kept going. So eventually we get back to this original stopping point where we'd split up from David, and we pick up his tracks that are going south. And we don't see him. He's definitely gone. So we're really excited to get out of there. So I begin to kind of move a little faster and get ahead of the two other boys. And as I'm going along, it turns slightly uphill. He's trying to like get more towards that traverse. And from his tracks, I could tell he took off his skis. So he's walking up in his boots. And I keep my skis on, but I'm following his boot pack. And then I get a little farther ahead and I see something. And I get closer to it and I realize it's a pair of skis and a pair of poles. And they look like somebody just like tossed them on the ground. And I remember being kind of confused.
That's strange.
Yeah, that's strange. And then I see a small hole, like really small, maybe like 2 feet across, right in the center of it. So he had broken through a snow bridge and had fallen into this crevasse. And I can hear him yelling. And he's really hoarse. He's been screaming for a long time at this point. He's super scared, which makes me really scared.